Welcome back to our African LGBTI community, Out and Proud, podcast where we celebrate vibrant, diverse, and incredibly resilient LGBTI personalities. We're bringing you stories of courage, love, and resilience and activism, and we're not holding back. So hit that subscribe button, like, and join our fantastic community. Let's keep the conversation going and spread the love. Notice how I said love and not hate. So let's get started. Today here with me, I bring to you my friend and my dear lover. I'm kidding. I bring to you my friend Amanda. Hi Amanda.
Hi Shani.
How have you been?
I'm good. How have you been?
I've been great, Amanda. How have you been?
I've been good as well.
How has the week gone for you?
Honestly, it hasn't been the best because of the news we've recently had that's happening in the UK for the trans community.
Tell us about this.
And what's happening right now is the UK has put a ban on puberty blockers for the trans youth. And this was something that we've been trying to push against because it's really affecting the trans community and especially the young transition people who are in the process of, affirming their gender. What happens to trans people when they're, still below 18 years and they are trying to, go through the process of their gender identity? It's not really the best right now, the situation right now.
Okay, so allow me ask. For our watchers, for those of you who are watching and you might not have an idea what a puberty blocker is, could you explain to me and the viewers what exactly a puberty blocker is?
So if I'm to explain it in a simple language, is a puberty blocker is a medication that is taken to put a pause on puberty. So what happens is when children are growing up, they don't produce sex hormones until a certain age and stage. And that stage when they produce sex hormones is known as puberty. So between 0 to around 12 years or around 10 or 11, children are, they're in a state of growing. Their bodies don't have any sort of sex hormones. So puberty blockers act in a way that they put a pause on the puberty. They kind of block it in a way that they don't produce testosterone or they don't produce, estrogen respectively. And for trans people, sometimes the sex assigned at birth and the process of coming to terms with who you are takes a longer time, or it's something that can even happen earlier on. And for these people, they want to transition at an early stage because they feel the dysphoria, the gender dysphoria, and they be wanting to, analyze themselves. They're feeling that sort of discomfort at an early stage. Because we've been seeing a lot of young trans people coming out below 18, and they're like, I feel I'm trans. I feel I'm transgender and I want to embrace myself. But the biggest challenge you're having is people think that trans people have an external influence, that the choice somebody makes when they're a child is not like a concrete choice. They begin to question, are you really sure you're trans? Or are you really sure? Is this what you want? So the reason as to why puberty blockers were introduced is to kind of give a child time to figure out, is this really what you want, But also, it buys them time from getting these secondary sex characteristics, because in puberty, there's what you call primary sex, characteristics and secondary sex characteristics. Secondary sex characteristics are things that come in at a process of puberty that boys and girls go through, for example, menstruation or, growth of breasts, or, for example, widening of hips. That's for the girls. And for the boys, facial hair starts to grow, the voice breaks, broadening of the chest and arms, and all these things that happen. Because at that point, the body is starting, to undergo change from being a child into an adult. Things that differentiate children from adults. Yes. Okay. So puberty blockers are things that we use to kind of give children time to figure out, until they're 18, to make decisions on their own, like to kind of give them that time. Because sometimes they realize at an early age, but what society is trying to say, are you sure you're going to regret this? Because we've also had some of the things that are creating this backlash is people who detransition.
Yeah.
Somebody does a process, 2-3 years later, they're like, I don't think I did the right thing. And then they have to reverse and regress back.
In your opinion, do you think detransitioning is okay?
I don't think it's not an okay thing, because it kind of puts a bad narrative on people that are actually doing it for who they really are. Because the biggest influence we've also had is people that come out and then they realize that they didn't want being trans in the first place, and then they decide to detransition and they record videos, and some of them begin to work with the religious people, or using their stories with the anti-trans groups. They're like, I transitioned, I did this for 2-3 years, and then I realized later that this was not the thing for me, and this is not the right path. And when they push that narrative there, it makes people think, so which means trans people are not authentic in what they are doing, and it kind of creates a debate. So what that narrative is, we are trying to tell people that even if someone is transgender and they are still below 18, there's still a possibility of them having more time to figure out their own gender identity, to go through puberty as anyone else would, without having to go through the secondary sex characteristics. Because what happens if you identify as a trans person and puberty is coming in, your body is changing, but you don't like the changes happening to your body, because these changes are biological and they don't align to who you are at birth. For example, you might be born female, but you identify as male, and then you don't want to go through your period. You don't want to grow breasts. You don't want to go through all these female sex things, and you want to say, you know what, I don't want to go through this. I want to put a pause on it to kind of reflect on myself. Or
and decide on what I want.
On what I want. Or the same for the people who are transitioning to female. You don't want your voice to change, to break. You don't want to grow all this facial hair. You don't want that sort of dysphoria. And you're like, you know what? Let me put a pause on puberty. And maybe after I'm 18, I can decide to figure out this. And it gives you more time, without having to go through all these changes. But it also gives the parent and the child more time on giving this child autonomy to finally make decisions when they're older and they are ready.
Okay.
Yes.
So the government, you said they indefinitely banned it?
Yes.
So which means is it immediate that there's not going to be access for these puberty blockers?
So when laws are passed, it affects the next people who are going to start, because the people who are already accessing the puberty blockers, and when a law is passed, it begins effective from that, which means the people before will continue, but the ones who are coming after. And the way it was done was, there's a doctor called Dr. Hilary Cass, and he was working in Parliament to do a sort of peer review, because sometimes they will, before the motion is passed in Parliament, they will do, let's task the scientific researchers on puberty blockers, So what they did is they went and they had a 400-page peer-reviewed journal talking about puberty blockers and all this. And the evidence, he said, that they pose significant risks. They might even pose harm to teenagers, to the trans youth. And the only way to do it is not to give them access to those things, because I quote, they kind of think that puberty blockers are not safe for the trans youth, because they don't trust the studies that were put in their research, But on the other hand, the process that has been going on for transgender people, this is how it works. When you're transgender and you're above 18, they refer you to what you call a gender identity clinic. A gender identity clinic is a clinic specifically for trans people, in helping them access, their health services with their transition. It includes your mental health. It includes your voice training. It includes referrals for your surgery. It includes your medications and all those things, like the entire comprehensive package, So these gender identity clinics work in collaboration with the GPs, the NHS GPs. The two have a collaborating partnership. So when you go to a GP and you're like, I'm transgender, I want to access hormones, the GP makes you a referral to go to the gender identity clinic. And then they put you on a waiting list, because there's a huge waiting list of trans people in this country. Okay. They all want to transition. And because of COVID, they even have a backlog So right now the waiting lists are like even 5 years to get even your first appointment and all that. As you're waiting for your appointment, you're not going to access all the services, the voice therapy, all this and all that. The most they can do is give us, as other few facilities, not the comprehensive package. And that's for people who are what? Above 18. Now for the youth, they've been giving them what? Puberty blockers. Puberty blockers are designed to put the pause on their puberty to give them time. But because a lot of misinformation is going around telling people that their children are not safe, the transgender people are like brainwashing people, forcing them to change their sex against their own will and all that. And every parent there would be alarmed for their child. So they decided, you know what, let's first do this sort of review. What are these things we're giving to the children? So by putting a ban on this, they are saying they still want to do more research, more clinical trials, and the clinical trials are going to begin next year. And then they will try to do, it's not, this ban is, it's permanently put there, but it's subject to appeal in 2027. But until 2027, they're doing the clinical trials to see if puberty blockers are really effective and are safe for the youth.
Okay. So for this argument about the trans blockers, do you feel as though the government is well within its rights to say that children should wait till the age of 18 to be able to make the decision on whether they should get trans blockers or not? Do you feel like that's a good thing? Because most people would argue and say that these are children, they can't make this decision for themselves because they're children, so it's best to wait till they're 18 or till they're 21. What do you think about that?
So by them putting a ban on puberty blockers, the harm comes in a way that the child has to go through puberty without having to put a pause on it. In other words, if you're trans and you don't want to go through the body changes that come with puberty, you're going to have to hate yourself. Imagine you identify as male, or you identify as female, but your body is going through puberty. It's changing. Would you really be comfortable in that body? You wouldn't. Because if you identify as male, why would you want to go through your period? Or if you identify as female, why would you want your facial hair to grow and your voice to deepen? Because these are things that create dysphoria in trans people, because they want their bodies to align with how they feel. You realize? True. So if I'm saying that, if you tell me that you identify as trans and you want to start your transitioning and all that, but you pick it up at 14, and you don't want your period, maybe your first period is going to start at 15, but you don't want to go through that process. The purpose of the puberty blocker is to prevent you from going through all that hassle, to buy you time until you're 18. Then you can begin the testosterone and all that. Mm-hmm. But if I'm not giving you the puberty blocker, I'm letting you go through it. And the side effect it has is that, teenagers have a problem with emotional regulation. They're still trying to figure out how to be responsible adults and emotional regulation. And dysphoria can really be intense in a way that some people begin self-harm, mutilating. They're like, why am I growing breasts? Yet I'm identify as trans. Why am I growing breasts?
The self-hate.
The self-hate. They're like, why is my voice deepening? Yet I identify as a woman. Why is my facial hair growing? Why these body things? Because it's puberty. Your body is going through that. But if you have a blocker, you don't go through that because it buys you time. The blocker is just buying time. So what we are trying to say is give these children blockers to give them the enough time so that when they're 18, they can continue with whatever decision they've decided. Or if they reach 18 and they feel like, maybe it was just a phase, I didn't want to go through this, then they remove the blocker and they go through the normal process that they would have without the blocker. So the blocker is just a sort of temporary thing. It doesn't alter anything. It just stops your body from producing sex hormones. It says no testosterone or no estrogen. Just leave the body as it is. Yes. So you're not going to grow breasts. You're not going to get a deep voice. You're not going to get all these secondary sex. They're not going to happen because there's a blocker in you. Okay. It stops this. But if it's not there, you will go through puberty like everyone else, and it can take a toll on you when you don't want these body changes as a trans person.
Okay. So my next question, do you, okay, not do you, would you think that one of the reasons why this law has been put into place is because of also the effects it might have on the body?
Yeah, part of it.
Do you think that maybe... Oh, no, sorry.
Okay, finish.
Do you think that maybe the reason this has been put into place is because the person that's choosing to make this decision possibly does not fully understand what, like, the person that's making the decision does not fully understand the decision, and at that time it's, I just don't want to be a man, I just don't want to, I just don't want to get puberty and all that. Do you get what I'm saying? Am I making sense?
So if because the thing about being trans is sometimes some people, it depends on at what stage you feel your gender identity comes into your own limelight, if I'm to put it in a sense. In that, for some people it happens at an earlier stage. It can start at 10 years. You're like, you know what, I don't think I was born in the proper body, I don't align with this body at 10. And for some people that process can happen at 25. Imagine you went through all puberty, you went through high school, you went through university, you went through everything, and at 25 you're like, what? It has hit me. I don't think this is what I want. And for people that it hits later, they have the advantage of going to these gender identity clinics that I've told you. And because they are adults, people, of course, there'll always be criticism and public hate and judgment. But it will not be like as to the extent of the youth. Because for the youth, they will question your decision making. You're still a child. Are you sure? So a person who comes out as trans and they're still below 18 face a big challenge in terms of their own decision making, with people questioning their ability to make a firm decision. Like, are you really sure about this? Compared to an adult who is over 18. So the solution, that's why they don't give them any puberty. I mean, they don't give them any estrogen, any testosterone, no. And it's prohibited. But the media and all these people have pushed this narrative that, I took my child as a boy, my child came back as a girl to school. All that they're performing illegal surgeries, because there's no doctor that is going to perform a surgery to a child that is below 18. It's not even allowed. Okay. The current guidelines we're even having is to get any sexual reassignment surgery for trans people, you need 2 letters. One from even a psychiatrist and a psychologist to show that you're in the right state of mind. They assess your mental health. Without those letters, no surgeon is going to do it. You need to have been taking your hormones and consistently for a period of 1 to 2 years. You see, before they do, there are guidelines they follow. You must have been, dressing or presenting yourself as your preferred gender. You don't just wake up and you're like, I'm trans, let me go for the surgery. No, there's a list of criteria that they follow. But because of misinformation that is being put out in the public, people think that anybody wakes up, they just go for surgery, they just go and do this without following the steps.
Do you feel that the decision to put a ban on these trans blockers was rooted in transphobia?
Yes, because the UK has been one of the most, even conversion therapy used to be legal in this country for trans people until of recent. And it has not been one of the most supportive countries when it comes to trans legislation. Part of it being that trans rights are still one of the most controversial topics within the whole LGBT spectrum.
Yes.
The T is the most controversial thing. Bathroom issues, names, changing gender markers on the passports and IDs, all these sorts of things. Every time there's a case, there's like so and so, and it also has to do with public opinion in terms of politicians using it. People, in the government, the parliament, the Labour Party, and all these people trying to say, when we speak about trans issues, we can win majority of the hearts of the public.
True.
Because sometimes LGBT rights are a political issue. Where do you stand on these things? When you speak about it, it kind of brings out a sort of togetherness for people that are against these sorts of things. You've also seen it in African countries.
Yeah.
Every time there's an issue, they're like, let's bring in LGBT to unite the masses, to kind of
and it
distract
works
them,
every
and it
time.
works.
Your homophobia helps your politicians steal from you every time.
Exactly, because by the time we even tried to lobby, this thing was that the bill was being tabled in May for this discussion, and throughout summer, trans people were campaigning, marching. There was even trans pride in London. We went lobbying all the legislators, lobbying all this and all this. But look, recently, because they first put a bill in Parliament, they discussed, they asked for peer journals, bring this, because lawmakers also follow certain steps.
Yeah.
And by the time they passed the ban, because from May, right now we're in December, look at that period, from May to December, they took all that time and were protesting, we were appealing, but
okay, so
all
this
in vain.
is obviously a fight. So this is a struggle. So what message would you have for your fellow transgender mates? What would you say to them? What would you say to those that are in transitioning and have been affected by this ban, or those that feel like they are ready to transition but things like this are happening? What's your message to them?
So it's to send out a message of hope to the trans youth, because they are the biggest, most affected group by this newly passed law, but also to show that there's still more to fight for, because every time this country passes a legislation that is not favorable, we always go to appeal to a higher court, and we can always go and challenge this to a more regional court and take it maybe to a bigger Supreme Court. We're like, what, we're not satisfied with this decision, and we can challenge this. And it also calls us to mobilize as trans groups to prepare for the bigger fight. If we're going to go to the bigger court, we will need more people on our side. We will need more support from the communities. We will need more, visibility from organizations like what we are doing now to say, what, we are calling on you as our allies. One of the biggest issues we are also facing is this division from the group. Apparently, this has been happening in the US. People are saying they should remove the LGB from their T. They are saying sexual orientation is different. For us, we're lesbian, we are bisexual, we are gay. That's all we care about. Transgender identity, those are separate things. We don't want it. They are throwing it out.
I feel
right
like that's
now
rooted
with
in
Trump,
homophobia.
especially with Trump that has gone through power. Even there's what you call gays for Trump, lesbians for Trump. Yeah.
That's embarrassing.
Yes,
Trump is a non-homophobe. What are you doing?
Gays for Trump, So what they're saying is, for us, we're doing LGB. Those T people can do their own thing, and they're actually against the trans people. Even in our own communities.
But it's always been LGBT from the start.
It's a campaign that is being pushed around internally from our own groups, because even in our own groups there's transphobia. People still have there's misogyny, misogyny,
there's misogyny, there's racism
internally within our own community, classism, all that. So transphobia is also apparent, and they're like, because the other things that also makes it a sensitive issue is even in Nigeria, in Malaysia, they were passing laws against cross-dressing, because they kind of still see that it's a thing that is giving a bad image to the kids. Even in Texas, they were banning bills against drag queens and all that. So people cannot be themselves or even do entertainment, even merely putting on a dress and all that, because they're like, drag queens spoil children.
Yet honestly, I'd rather, if I was to have kids, I would very much rather leave my child with a drag queen before I left them with a priest. Thank you.
Yeah, because they're like, the drag queens are destroying the kids and all that. And there's always the thing of associating trans people with the drag queens and all these cross-dressing things, because in Nigeria and Ghana, they're like, they're going to pass a bill against cross-dressing. You've been seeing a lot of content also on TikTok with people who cross-dress for entertainment, but also they're trying to target trans people by passing that bill, including all the content creators, because they think it's going to spoil the children.
Homophobia, transphobia is crazy. I don't understand it. I don't know why it's a thing. But in all the light of all those things, how does this make you feel? You as Amanda, how does it make you feel? How does it affect you?
It's draining, because in the summer, there was the London Pride, London Trans Pride. All these, we even went across, because certain cities hold Pride, Brighton, all these. We were marching, we put our banners, we arranged meetings. Even people have been in Parliament trying to debate about all this. But in the end, it's like they are falling on deaf ears.
True.
We spent from May, that's like the end of spring, and June, from the beginning of summer, we walked through all this journey trying to defend all this. We justified all that.
And it's just basic human rights at the end of the day. No matter who you are, you're just asking to be treated as a human being. You're just asking to be able to live your life truly as who you are. So I don't know why this is even an argument at the end of the day. I don't understand why it's an argument, because people are just asking you to let them live their lives freely. So why are you putting all these laws? It's the same thing when it comes to women. Women are not allowed to have abortions because why? If she doesn't want the child, why are you forcing her to have the child? Help me help you. Help me understand. Why are you forcing me to have a child I don't want to have? Why are you forcing someone to be a gender they feel uncomfortable being? You know, it doesn't make sense. But anyway, guys, that has been all for today. Thank you for logging into our channel. Thank you for subscribing. Make sure to leave a like and your lovely comments. Notice I said lovely comments, not hateful comments. Thank you for watching my show. Thank you for watching our podcast. This has been Shanice Shamila, and this has also been Amanda on the show today, Out and Proud African LGBTI. Thank you for watching our show. Till next time, bye lovelies.